This is the Honor Magic V5, the thinnest foldable phone in the world. Even when unfolded, it is still the second thinnest among all phones. Honestly, this isn't much a surprise. The Honor Magic V3 also held the title of thinnest foldable at its time. They've simply outdone their own achievements from the past. We were fortunate enough to get our hands on the global version of this phone before the release. After using it for a while, I have some thoughts to share beyond just the standard test results. Now, let's start with the giant camera module. Maybe it is the body being too thin or the camera system being too powerful. Either way, the camera bump is more pronounced than I expected, but I'm not complaining. Some flagship bar phones are nothing different, and I do enjoy the benefit from a bigger camera. First up, the telephoto camera. It uses an older sensor and has a shorter focal length compared to last gen, but the sensor size has actually increased. So much better than the poor 3x telephoto of the Samsung Z Fold 7. I really like this focal length. It's the one I use often in everyday shooting. Plus, it's a 64 megapixel resolution without the 2x2 OCL technology, gives it the edge in detail retention, outperforming most other phones in most scenarios. Honor is so confident in its quality that it doesn't use AI upscaling under 15x. Even beyond the 15x, the AI enhancement doesn't make photos look overly processed. It doesn't add fake details, which is great for those who dislike heavy AI work. The ultra-wide camera now has an even wider field of view. I always said that one thing in my reviews: an ultra-wide camera must be truly wide, or it's pointless to have one. Honor clearly took my advice, even though this camera still has some old flaws, like the purple fringing issue and the mediocre low-light detail performance, but I still love the ultra-wide perspective it offers. Magic V5's default color profile is vibrant, but you can switch between two other modes depending on the scene. My favorite is Authentic mode. It offers a high contrast and a cinematic look. As for video recording, there's a little to criticize. You can freely switch between lenses even at the 4K 60fps, and stabilization is solid. The Pro mode even includes a log mode, showing this phone's high ceiling for videography. The only nitpick is that sometimes there's focus hunting in low light. Compared to the rear camera, the front cameras aren't as impressive. They are maxed out at the 1080p 60fps, and the noise is noticeable. But hey, as long as it doesn't ruin your Zoom meeting, it is still acceptable, and that's maybe what Honor intended. Maybe you don't care about the cameras, but you are definitely here for the paper-thin body. This is a $5 Hong Kong coin, 3.3mm thick. Place it next to the Magic V5 and you will see just how absurdly thin this phone is. The slimness is even more apparent when folded. Here's an iPhone 16 Pro, 8.25mm thick, and the Magic V5 next to it doesn't look much thicker. I know the Z Fold 7 is just as thin, but in order to slim it down, Samsung chose to not increase the battery capacity. How about Magic V5? What did Honor sacrifice to achieve this thinness? The answer is nothing. No compromises. As a matter of fact, the battery even got bigger. Except for a slightly lower dust resistance rating, it's just like a normal flagship phone. Now, you can't use weight or thickness as an excuse to avoid buying it anymore. Now, the biggest pain point of a foldable, the inner screen experience. Like all foldables, the Magic V5 still hasn't solved it. Videos can't fill the entire screen, and some apps that are not optimized for foldables look awkward. But Honor still tries to solve these problems the way they do. For example, the split screen and multi-window UI is excellent. You want this window to be bigger? No problem. That window gets bigger too? No problem. Unlike other brands that have 4 small, 1 big multi-windows, Honor wants to let users decide the size of each app. Even if you want to swap the position of the apps or the orientation of the arrangement, you can do it on Magic V5. Together with this small, flexible floating window, you can keep up to 4 apps in the foreground. The USB is 3.2 Gen 1 port. Of course, it supports a video output. And there's a PC mode, though there's a bug when connecting to ultra-wide monitors. The image just stretches. But the problem isn't there on the 16:9 monitors. Hopefully, this gets fixed in the final software. While the Magic V5 can be used like a laptop, unfolding it in half to convert the bottom half into a keyboard or touchpad, I'm not a big fan of this. Besides cutting off the display in half, the outer screen would be easily scratched by dust on the desk. The keyboard is too small and I can't type with both hands, so if I really want to use it for work, I'd at least connect it to a real keyboard. Here are the specs of the Magic V5's display. They are top tier across the board. Especially the PWM dimming frequency, Honor remains the only brand pushing ultra high frequency PWM for eye comfort. I have to say, their phones have always been the best in the eye caring. Both the inner and outer screen support a stylus, it's just the stylus is something you need to buy separately. As for the crease, after a month of use, it looks like this, average for a foldable phone. It's deeper than what it was first unboxed, but not too prominent, even looking directly at it. By the way, the Magic V5 has AI-powered foreign object detection. If anything larger than 0.8mm is on the inner screen, it will warn you on the outer screen. Finally, AI does something useful. As a foldable phone with the Snapdragon 8 Elite, the peak performance is certainly much better than those with the Agent 3 or 8 Elite with one less P-core. It's not much different than that constant overclocked 8 Elite from the Z Fold 7. However, the Magic V5 is still a foldable phone, and combined with its ultra-thin body, gaming performance wouldn't be great, and Genshin Impact frame rate graph confirms it. Not only does the frame rate quickly lock at 45, but by the end, it shows a tendency to drop further. With the cooling system overloaded, the body temperature reaches nearly 50 degrees Celsius. Fortunately, since my hands are at the lower half of the phone, it doesn't feel too hot during gameplay. So, is the Magic V5 bad for gaming? Not really. Fold it and magic happens. Gaming on the outer screen actually provides a better experience. Smoother, more stable, and cooler. But why? We find this is due to different rendering resolutions between screens. The inner screen renders twice the resolution of the outer screen, doubling GPU load. Simply put, gaming on the inner screen is like running two identical games simultaneously. Therefore, the correct way to game on the Magic V5 is this. For light games, use the inner screen for a larger display and better graphics. For demanding games, use the outer screen for more sustained and smoother gameplay. The most praiseworthy thing about the Magic V5 is that it becomes thinner while the battery is bigger. There are not many foldable phones recently. We can only compare it to last year's Magic V3. The progress in battery life is quite significant. Here's the battery consumption curve from my heaviest use of day. I try to use the inner screen as much as possible and primarily use the 5G network. Even with such intensive use for a whole workday, I didn't manage to drain its battery. And if that's not enough, there's another option. The 1TB model sold in China has a battery of 6,100 milliamp. That's a whopping 1,700 milliamp larger than the Z Fold 7. So the Magic V5 is foldable with the longest battery life yet. If you got a big wallet, you should check out this phone. The charging speed isn't as impressive as the battery capacity though. 66 watt wide charging might not sound exceptionally fast, but it can fully charge the phone in under 15 minutes, which is still quite fast. The Magic V5 hasn't sacrificed the wireless charging despite its thinness, and it can draw up to 45 watt from third-party PD chargers. There's really nothing to complain about in terms of charging. So 2025 has been a tough year for foldable fans. Samsung's Z Fold 7 dropped the S Pen support, Xiaomi paused the Mix Fold series, Vivo skipped the X Fold 5 Pro, and Oppo's Find M5 cut a CPU P-cores. Unlike these backpedaling, the Magic V5 is offering all-around upgrades. This is the biggest selling point. Even for their phone case, they've upgraded to a vegan leather version with a stand. I don't know the price of the Magic V5 yet, but the Chinese pricing of the Magic V3 matches the global price. So hopefully the Magic V5 won't disappoint us. If you enjoyed this review, please hit the like button and subscribe. And we're from China. See you next time.